Welcome to the Wise Doula podcast, a place for informative, uplifting, and educational conversations. Here, we will discuss all things connected with parenting, from conception to birth, postpartum, and beyond. You are amongst friends here, so go ahead and grab a cup of your favorite drink. Remember, not caffeinated if you are expecting, and join me inside. I can't wait to speak with you. Well, hello, my dear listeners, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Doula podcast. I am so happy that you decided to join us today. Our topic for today is postpartum wellness and postpartum care. And you might be thinking, well, to be expected, Marta, you're a doula, so of course you're going to talk about postpartum. But I have a special connection with postpartum that I am excited to share with you today. And it comes from more than one place. So if you want to begin at the beginning, my first experience of postpartum was my own postpartum. And yes, if somebody has told you otherwise, let me tell you clearly there is postpartum in every birth. That means you will experience postpartum in a full term birth, but also in early trimester births. Any human body that has been pregnant and has had the pregnant hormones and the pregnant changes is going to experience a postpartum period with those changes, those hormones going back. It's going to be physical changes, psychological changes, etc. So, my first experience is when I was pregnant with our baby. We lost our baby in the first trimester. I went through labor. And yes, that's another thing that you might not know, but labor happens in every trimester. And afterwards, I went through postpartum. Now, as a postpartum professional, now I understand that and I understand it well. When it happened, I didn't. I had no clue. The clinic I was going did not prepare me to know what was going to happen in postpartum. Also, remember, I had postpartum compounded by grief. I was grieving the loss of my baby and the loss of the pregnancy. My husband and I were grieving, and I didn't know what I was feeling or why I was feeling it. It was just a mess, you know? It was a mess of feeling weird in my body and feeling weird in my mind. Nobody explained to me that all those changes that had happened during those 2 months of pregnancy, of course, were going to make my body go into postpartum. And there were going to be new changes, right? And new adjustments. Because once the pregnancy stops, the body naturally starts downsizing all those hormones that were already working and putting systems in place for that full term birth, for lactation, etc. So nobody explained too much to me. Even how I was going to miscarry was not very well explained. I was told it would be a heavy period. They did not explain the bleeding afterwards very well. And there is bleeding in every birth, there is bleeding afterwards. And they didn't explain that. They didn't explain what was going to happen in my body or in my mind with my emotions. So I was pretty much left to fend for myself. And of course, when you're grieving, you're not thinking, oh, part of the way I'm feeling might be the postpartum period. You're thinking, this is terrible. This sucks. My life has changed irrevocably. I don't know what to do with myself. And you are kind of like surviving day by day. You don't care to analyze or study or self care, even. You're just like let me do one day at a time. That's all I can do. And so that experience of postpartum is very vivid for me, of not knowing what was going on, of now looking back and going, wow, I really needed support. I really needed care in that period. And I didn't have it. And I didn't even have society recognition that I was a mother or that I was in postpartum, but I was. And by the way, before we continue, let me tell you a little secret. I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I experienced postpartum after I had my baby. I experienced postpartum. My aunt had postpartum. My mom had postpartum." And what people mean when they say that is postpartum depression. Okay. But for some reason, they just call it postpartum. Well, let me make the difference here. Postpartum is the period after you give birth. Normally, it's considered the first 40 days, but in a lot of cultures, it's up to the entire first year after that baby comes. And so let's make the distinction between postpartum period and postpartum depression or other mood and anxiety issues that can arise. Okay. So if you hear somebody say, I had postpartum, everybody that was pregnant had postpartum because it's a period. If you had postpartum depression, then you say, I had postpartum depression. Anyway, that's my soapbox moment for you. So after my own experience of postpartum and after being extremely lost at the time, my next experience comes with my first doula client. We're now in 2018. I have a pro bono client that I'm working with. She is giving birth in a hospital an hour away from my house. She gets admitted at night. She tells me, "You don't need to come tonight. They're going to start the induction process. They said that nothing is going to move until tomorrow morning. Please come in the morning." Okay. So I prepare my doula bags. I lie in my bed. I cannot sleep from the excitement. This is my first birth. Okay. So I cannot sleep from the excitement. And then the morning comes and the phone rings. I pick up the phone, and before I answer, I kid you not, I think, oh my goodness, she already had the baby and she's calling me afterwards. I don't know why, but I thought that. So sure enough, I pick up the phone, I answer. And she tells me the labor started overnight, was quite precipitous, and she's already had the baby. And she says, you don't need to come if you don't want to, blah, blah, blah. And I hang up the phone and I feel excited and joyful for her. And at the same time, very disappointed, that I wasn't able to take care of her during birth. That's what we had decided was going to happen, and that she didn't call me. And I make peace with that. I understand circumstances change and things happen. And at that time, I could have decided, well, that's nice. I talked to her on the phone, done and done. But something in me says, go to the hospital, see how she's doing. She needs support in postpartum too, not just in birth. So I go to the hospital. I sit down with her. I say, tell me your birth story. And she tell me anything you want about your birth. And she starts talking. You know, I sit there and I care for her the best I can, making sure she's comfortable. If she's in pain, making sure she calls the nurse to get some pain meds or whatever she needs. I take care of her partner. I interact with visitors that come. I accompany them to the NICU because the baby was in the NICU. So I do all that. And I think throughout those 2 days that I spend there, she realizes how awesome it is to have somebody caring for you and supporting you. Okay. Because also she's new in this country, her family is not here. Okay. So I think she realizes how amazing having this professional support is. And I can see her changing, opening up like a flower. And honestly, she probably absolutely loved those 2 days. And I loved them even more because on those 2 days, she gave me the gift of understanding how amazing the postpartum period is and how necessary it is for new parents, new moms, and babies to have appropriate care in the postpartum. So I will forever be thankful to her for that gift. Now, let's talk about postpartum. Let's talk about what it means, what it is. Let's talk about how society views pregnancy. Ooh, you're pregnant, excitement, announcement, yes, building up, building up. Ooh, the finish line is when the baby comes. And after that, you've made the race. Have you made the race? You've made one race, but there is another race starting, right? There is another race which is caring for that baby and the upbringing of that baby. So society focuses on mom and baby while baby is in utero. How are you feeling? How are you doing? How's the baby growing? Blah, 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 blah. Pamper mom, right? Mom is like a superstar, like a Hollywood superstar. And then as soon as the baby comes, everybody's like, great, the baby's here. All the focus goes to the baby. Is the baby okay? Is everything okay? Wonderful, the baby's great. Hey, healthy baby, healthy mom, so you're okay. Even if you had a difficult birth, oh, well, that's all in the past. Don't you worry, because the reality is your baby's okay. So that's what matters. You should be okay with that. And birth trauma is something we will talk about in a different episode. But all the focus shifts now to the baby. Everybody that comes to visit is visiting the baby. How is the baby doing? Oh, the baby's beautiful, this and that. And the parents kind of get forgotten in that picture. Put together with that the fact that we don't have adequate maternity leave in the US. Some people have it, some people don't. Some companies will give it, others won't. I can tell you about my own experience of working in education, and in my setting where I was working, you had 6 weeks of unpaid, listen, unpaid leave. Okay. So you had to accumulate your sick days in order to take those 6 weeks. And do you think a new mom is ready to come back after 6 weeks? Do you? Because I can tell you she's not. Regardless of whether it was a vaginal birth or a C section, there is a lot of recovery that is happening physiologically, emotionally, mentally, at all levels. There is a lot of bonding time that you need with your baby. 6 weeks is nothing, is dust in the wind. And yet, that's what we had to do as teachers. So some people have it, but a lot of people don't. And that's really something that we are lacking severely in this country. So put together the fact that maternity leave is rare, appropriate maternity leave, and put that together with the fact that society tells us that having a baby is like nothing. Pop, have a baby and go back to work. Go back to all your routines at home. Go back to functioning and receiving guests and cooking and cleaning and whatever. You might have a spouse that is extremely helpful, but still, as women, we are super overachievers. And it's hard for us to accept help. So we're going to try to do as much as we can. The end result is we're not going to give our body and our mind enough time to heal because society is telling us, hurry up and get back to work. And some people actually use it as a point of pride. Oh, I just had my baby and I'm back at the gym. I just had my baby and I'm back at work. I just had my baby. So our priorities are a little skewed here, right, in the Western society. So we have a dyad, mom, baby, and a family surrounding them that really need a lot of attention and care. And this is one of my strong passions because I've talked about it in several episodes. But again, The focus is on the baby. The focus is on back to normal life. Oh, yeah, at 6 weeks, you go to the doctor and they do an appointment with you. They talk about contraceptives and family planning. That's it, you know. And of course, you can always talk to your doctor if you're going through some maternal mental health situations. You have some symptoms, you're worried that something is going on, that you might have depression, that you might have something going on. Of course, you talk to your doctor, etc. But at the end of the day, you're going back to that house with all those expectations put on you. And not just by your family, but mainly by society. And that is a rough place to be. We have such a high incidence of perinatal mood and anxiety disorders in our society because not enough care and nurturing is going into the postpartum period. Of course, any perinatal mental health situations are caused by a variety of factors. We're not saying it's just one factor, it's a variety. But the attention on the postpartum period is not there. So, how can we change that? And what can we learn from other societies that are doing a better job with postpartum? How we change that is little by little. When we hire a postpartum doula, when we call on a relative that is going to come and support us during that period, when we build a network of support, whether it's through meal trains or other things that are going to accompany us in that period. When we sit down with our partner or spouse and plan, draw up a plan of what the postpartum is going to look like. See, I've given you 4 different ways that you can build that postpartum support for yourself. And you heard me talk about other traditional societies and how they deal with postpartum. And I have had the immense lack of training with a Moroccan postpartum provider and learning more about their customs. And I've learned about the customs in other countries. So, in traditional societies, the difference is that the postpartum is not just that 40 days, it's up to that first year of life for the baby. Okay. And the focus is not just on the baby and on immediately going back to your usual life. The focus is on nurturing both mom and baby with the understanding that both of them have gone through an incredible rite of passage. Imagine the baby coming from that aquatic environment of the womb into this environment, which is made of gas, right? Of air. And having that shock of coming from that warm, wet environment to this dry environment, for lack of a better word. Now think about the mother that, regardless of how many books she's read, how many videos she's watched, she has had to experience in her own body all the changes of pregnancy. And now that the baby has come, all the changes of postpartum, all the changes in the couple's relationship, all the changes as far as work, when to go back to work, who's going to be helping us with the baby, who's going to help us with the siblings, how are we going to do all this? Don't get me started if the family is having their first baby. Super lost. Oof, there's this tiny infant. I don't know what to do. I'm not quite sure. They told me a lot of information at the hospital, but boy, now I'm alone at home and oh my goodness, this is a lot. So there is a lot that goes into postpartum. So in traditional societies, the reason they really value the healing for both mom and baby is because there is an understanding that it's not a snap of the fingers and you are recovered. It takes time. And when we tell moms, just go back to work, just go back to your usual activities, just because you had a baby is nothing. We're not allowing them the space to recover, to understand the changes in their body, in their mind, to bond with their baby, to develop that relationship with their baby, right? So you might be asking, well, Marta, what is it that you do as a traditional postpartum doula? How is that different from you coming as a postpartum doula? And by the way, in case you've never had a postpartum doula and you're wondering, as a postpartum doula, I would come to your house or the hospital, help you take care of the baby, and also help take care of you. Okay? Check in with you, see how you're recovering, see if you need help with anything, see if you need referrals to other professionals, etc. So, in regular postpartum care, I am taking care of both you and the baby. Yes. And that would be the basis of what I would be doing for the period of time that you contracted my services. Now, how is that different from what I do in traditional postpartum care? Like I told you, in traditional postpartum care, there is an understanding that the mother's body has gone through significant changes and that going back to the pre pregnancy state is not going to happen overnight. So there is time allowed for that healing. And there are certain techniques that allow and accompany that healing. So, for example, in the type of traditional postpartum I practice, we do a deep bath of the mother, okay? And we do that with certain herbs that help with healing, help with inflammation, help the body recover, okay? Also, let's not forget the oxytocin and all the good chemicals that are releasing in the body when somebody is taking care of you. Okay, so we start with that. We do a massage with olive oil. No, it's not a deep massage, it's just a leg massage to help with circulation. So we do a gentle massage. Yes, we do a tea ceremony for you. Yes, to nourish you inside and out. We do a closing of the body where the body is gently swaddled with scarves. And in that swaddling, we help the body go back to the pre pregnancy state and help you feel more connected with your body. You know, we celebrate the mother that you have become. And so we honor this body that has given birth, as well as the baby that has come into the world. And ultimately, we include the family. Of course, traditionally in Morocco, if there was a celebration, it would be a celebration amongst women. And it's a beautiful thing to have a celebration with just your female friends and family. But we bring the family into the equation. What's happening with the partner? What's happening with the siblings? What are they needing at this time? And it's not a quick fix, it's not a one bomb and done. It's what do you need? How many times do we need to meet for this to be effective for you, for your recovery? And how else can I support you? See, and it's a complete shift. It's not the quick, go back to work and whatever, you just had a baby, whatever. No, it's the understanding that your life has changed, your body has changed, your mind has changed. And we need to react accordingly to that. And I have mentioned earlier perinatal mood and anxiety disorders or situations that can happen. Mental health is something that is very, very important, not only in postpartum, in pregnancy too. And we know that there is a huge stigma around it, around mental health. And there is a huge fear and stigma around discussing mental health in postpartum. Some parents might fear that if I say I'm struggling with this or that, they might take my baby. People might think this or that of me. What is my doctor going to think? So when I come into your house as a postpartum doula, I am your postpartum doula. I am not a mental health professional, but I am a postpartum doula that is there to care for you holistically. and is there to observe how you are doing and to talk with you and see how you are doing. And if you start telling me, Marta, I'm not feeling right, I'm having this situation, I can't stop this or that, I'm really worried, I'm gonna be there for you to help you, to provide referrals to other professionals in the community that can help you. So I want you to know, if you're my client, and listen, even if you're not, if you're my listener and you're struggling and you need help, I am happy to point you in the right direction. I am happy to point you to Postpartum Support International so you can find a professional that will help you and assist you. But I want you to know that I can never take off my postpartum doula hat. So when I come into your house, that's a safe space for you to say anything you need to say. And if you come into my space, if you write me a comment or a message, I will do my best to support you, and provide you with the resources that help you. So, in the context of having that extended postpartum care, that's when we can really hone in on what's going on, what do you need. And the biggest thing is, I want you to know you are not alone, whether you're a mom or a dad going through postpartum depression or through perinatal mental health issues or situations. Please know that you're not alone. Please know that there are helpers out there to help you and to support you. And know that I am one of them. Okay? I will help you. I will refer you to the appropriate professional for whatever your needs are, if it's outside of my doula scope of practice. And so, what am I trying to tell you with this? Because you might be thinking, oh my goodness, Marta, this sounds wonderful, but we don't live in societies where traditional postpartum is valued and revered. We live in a society, the Western society, where postpartum care is like pim pam and done. Again, I'm talking about the US because we have other Western countries that are doing very, very well. And we have examples in Europe. Um, you know, Spain, for example, which is my other frame of reference because I'm from Spain, um, has a very good maternity leave. And they're not even the best in Europe. There are other countries that are better. So, what can we do when we live in this Western society of the US where those things maybe are not as accessible to us? Where the reality is we have to go back to work super early. The reality is maybe we're not getting the care we need because, believe it or not, a lot of people do not know that postpartum doulas exist. So, a lot of people do not contact you, do not look for one. So, what can you do? Well, number one, like I said, find the people in your support network that are going to help you. Build your own postpartum care. Since we know we live in this US society where postpartum care is not a priority, build your own. Please, please, please make sure that you have an OB that you trust and love. If you have a doctor that you do not feel comfortable talking to, that you feel doesn't give you the time of day, that you feel is dismissive, if you spend your entire pregnancy grumpy about going to doctor visits because you felt that this person did not give you the care you needed, please find another provider. There are so many wonderful providers out there, so many. Please migrate yourself to a provider that suits your needs better. Okay? So build that network of support, including a good provider. Number two, while you're still in pregnancy, sit down with your partner and talk about what the postpartum is going to look like, what infant feeding is going to look like, how you're going to split chores and tasks, how you're going to distribute time with the baby, all of those things. And don't worry, we will elaborate more on those in another episode. Number three, what can you put in place that is going to help you? Is it somebody helping you make crockpot freezer meals? Is it organizing a meal train? Maybe there is a family member that can move in with you guys and help. And number four, be ready for whatever the postpartum is going to throw at you, because as much as we plan, the postpartum could always throw us something different. So be ready. Have a good support in place. Hire a postpartum doula. Contact the postpartum doula. Find the postpartum support group. Postpartum Support International is another great resource for that. And build the supports in place for yourself. And especially, don't let anybody tell you that healthy baby, healthy mommy, you had a rough birth. Oh, well, it's okay because the baby's okay. Don't let anybody tell you that you just pop the baby and snap, snap, go back to your usual life. Embrace your postpartum period. Give your body and your mind the time and the space they need to heal. Lean on the people around you. Don't be stubborn. Don't be all like, I'm not going to tell anybody I need help because I'm superwoman and I have to do it all myself. And we've all been there, believe me. So, no judgment here. We've all been there. It's okay to lean on people. And it's okay to say, I'm having a bit of a rough time. Can you help me? And when it comes to mental health, yeah, you're not going to tell everybody you know because it's private. But please lean on your family and definitely lean on the medical professionals that can help you. Talk to your healthcare provider or through Postpartum Support International, locate a therapist in your area. Please know that help is available and you have a wide array of professionals at your disposal, okay? I want to make sure that your postpartum is well cared for, well provided for. And even if you don't get to hire a postpartum doula, put some good measures in place so that your postpartum is as nurtured, as celebrated, and as supported as can be. And hey, if you already had your first baby and this is your second, and your first postpartum was a little rocky, you weren't in love with how things went, now it's time to make some changes. And if this is your first baby and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't even know what I'm getting myself into, take a deep breath. Nothing in this life comes with an instruction manual. I can tell you that. Not parenting, not teaching, not doula work. The first time I entered a classroom with preschoolers, I wanted to run away when I was in college. I was livid. And so many parents came to my parent teacher conferences while I was a teacher and told me, oh, this child is different than the other child, or this is happening with this one, but not with this other one. No child, no baby comes with an instruction manual. No postpartum period comes with a list of guidelines or a list of, it's not like an IKEA brochure where you learn how to put together furniture. It doesn't work like that. But please know that there are professionals available to you that can help you make that postpartum period a more fluid experience, a more balanced, nurture, and cared for experience. We are out there. Just give us a call. And that's my message for today, for this episode. I hope you have enjoyed learning a bit more about postpartum care, um, both Western and traditional postpartum care. Of course, this is a topic that we could be discussing for hours and never get to the bottom of it. If you are interested in learning more, please research postpartum customs around the world. It is such a deep fountain of knowledge. And not to say that we are doing it terrible in the US, we are doing our absolute best. We have systems in place that do the best they can to care for postpartum mothers, but also be aware that everything you can put in place through other professionals after the hospital or through your own resources are going to make the difference in your postpartum. So, upon that, I thank you for spending this time with me today. Let's do a hydration break. And our next segment is Word of the Day. So, our word of the day today is areola. The areola is part of the human breast. So, when we think about a mom that has gone through pregnancy and is now postpartum, the areola is the circle around the nipple. And areolas vary in size, the same as nipples. So we could have people with very small areolas, very large, in between. The really cool thing about the areola is that it darkens in pregnancy in preparation for the baby breastfeeding. And also, the areola has a scent that is the same scent as the amniotic fluid that the baby experiences in the womb. So babies know how to find the areola and the nipple by scent and also by touch, because those two senses are very well developed in the newborn. And a cool fact, back in the day, the thinking used to be that baby needed to attach to the nipple to breastfeed, and that's it. Then people started thinking, oh, no, it's the nipple and the whole areola. It has to disappear into the baby's mouth, otherwise the baby's not latching well. What we know now, thanks to research, is that babies need to attach to the nipple areolar complex, and that the whole areola is not going to disappear in the baby's mouth if mom has a really large areola. So it depends. So as long as the baby is well attached to that nipple areolar complex and it's a good latch, that's what we need for good lactation, appropriate lactation, and milk transfer to happen. So that's your word of the day and your definition for today. I am excited to see you next week for our next episode. And again, thank you for spending time with us today, okay? From all of us at the Wise Doula podcast, we will see you next week. Bye for now. Hey, you have listened to the Wise Doula podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, everything we discussed today was meant for entertainment and educational purposes only. It does not substitute the advice of your medical provider. Would you do us a favor? Follow me on Instagram at LovingBellyDoula. Also, let me know what other topics you would like to see me discuss in this podcast. And please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platforms. Thank you so much. I will see you next week.